The devil's dead and he's buried in Kirkcaldy. Nah, don't worry, not going to do all that shite again. We've got good stuff to talk about. The Barry Robson era has come to a swift and merciful end. To a unanimously positive response, the Rovers announced yesterday morning that Barry Robson and Andy Kirk had been relieved of their duties, with a short follow-up confirming that Paul Hanlon will take interim charge, assisted by John Potter and Mark McKenna. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and joining me tonight to give their reaction to yesterday's news with a little bit of looking forward to Saturday's game against Airdrie as well, I am delighted to have, first of all, Greig Brown. How are you, Greig?
Brimming with optimism.
Good. It's not like you.
No, it should be not. But
crab old soul.
No, there's been a fairly seismic life event this week that's tipped the balance over the last day or so. So I'm grand.
Good. Excellent. I'll hear more about that in a minute, I'm sure. We've also got Robbie Weir. How about you, Robbie?
Yeah, I think it was justified. I'm good. And with it, well timed. I mean, it was only 6 minutes or so after Aki's had came out from Stephen McGowan that Jerry Strain had been barred from being a director from the SFA. So stick that one on your LinkedIn, Jerry. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, big day for news yesterday. And we've also got Blair Hopcroft as well. How are you getting on, Blair?
I'm absolutely delighted, mate. Cock a hoop.
Excellent. Good stuff. Yeah, this is nice. I think we're all just a wee bit cheerier. There's a wee bit more fun to the whole affair.
See, at this point, we could wade in and say, like, yeah, Barry, we're sorry to see you go. But it's kind of like the episode of Judge Rinder with the woman where her dog goes after that cat.
I'm not laughing.
You're not sorry, you're laughing. It's like...
This is the thing, like, we kind of alluded to it before when we were talking about it over the last couple of weeks, particularly after the Dunfermline game, where like the first time some element of a fan base starts up against the manager, there's like a progression where it's like maybe 10%, then kind of 20%. And at a certain point, you can reach a tipping point and it's like a critical mass. Whereas it really did just feel like the first time somebody was like, I think Barry Robson should be sacked, everybody was like, yep, yeah, actually, yeah, I agree with you. It just became really difficult to make a case for keeping them. And as I say, like to the point where, like yesterday, the news came out and like there was just nobody was like, that's a bit, just none of it. Like, I think the Courier had a quote from somebody to that effect. It turns out he's an Ayr United supporter. Like, yeah, these are the only people who are like, I definitely keep that guy in a job. Also looking at you, Tony Docherty, gave him 25% of his points. Of course you wanted them kept in a job. But I mean, to that kind of point, I suppose, like when I was putting my notes together for our episode on Sunday, I did originally have the question of like, do you think Barry Robson will be sacked this week? And I took it out because I was like, just like the mood music just seemed totally against it. Just didn't really seem like there was much there. It was, whether it was just, I mean, actually, clearly it was completely false. But the general consensus seemed to be, the game against Airdrie is going to be the kind of critical one. He almost certainly needs to win that about 11-0 to keep his job. So, I mean, I suppose with that in mind, Greig, were you taken by surprise with the news yesterday morning?
Aye, I was certainly not disappointed to see the alerts going off my phone, and I was actually kind of unaware initially when the news broke, and it was a wee while later. But when you're thinking about, you mentioned there about Dunfermline away and the chants starting at that point about, Barry, please leave. It's astounding to think that wasn't even a full month ago. You know what I mean? That like, and so even at that point where I was feeling totally scunnered with Robson, I never ever thought, well, a month down the line, he's not going to be here. And then when you consider as well that actually Saturday's the first defeat since then, there's a lot that kind of doesn't quite feel normal but it doesn't feel wrong that he's been sacked. You know what I mean? Like that's so no, not a total surprise, but equally, I think it's a strange one that's run its course and kind of had to happen. And I suppose the only thing I'm surprised about is the fact that everyone's so apparently unified on the fact that it has happened.
Blair, do the board deserve credit for acting in the decisive manner that they have done?
Yeah, I actually think they do. And I think something that has been mentioned a few times, they employed him, so ultimately it's their job or whatever. But let's not forget, he steadied the ship last season. Like, I've mentioned it before, we can't take that away from him. He came into a team that was floundering, and he sorted us out, and he got us to the end of the season, and we were, I don't know, even a goal or two away from the playoffs, which seemed completely alien when he kind of took the job. We certainly, more than once at that time, were talking about looking over our shoulders and worried about the potential of getting dragged in. And he did completely steady the ship. So fair play. I think at the time he was probably the right appointment, but probably more in a Sam Allardyce kind of way than a long-term kind of option. That kind of, I think that's probably what he'll end up being for a while now, actually, is the guy who comes in, steadies a ship, gets things sorted, and then moves on. Maybe not. But I think the board deserve credit for acting relatively quickly, because we said it before, like, the writing was on the wall, that nobody seemed to want him to stay. And a mate of mine that he's a Rovers fan, like, historically, but doesn't really kind of keep up with football as much anymore, had messaged me and said, like, Rovers manager's away, what do you think? And I was like, delighted. And I'm like, how do I kind of explain this to somebody who is looking at it from the outside and isn't going to games at that, but still watches out for the results, so sees the results and knows we've not been great, but you're 3 points off third. Like, it's no panic stations. And I just keep coming back to that thing of, we want to be a community club, we want to be a family club. You need a guy in charge who is warm, who can go out into the community, can make relationships, can speak to people, can do all of that stuff. And I'm really sorry, but Barry Robson's not it. Mm-hmm. And so when the football's good, you make allowances for it. You kind of, it doesn't matter. But when the football's no good and he's not bringing that to the party, it just felt inevitable to me. And like I said before, I honestly think he could have won the next 10 games on the bounce, and then he could lose 3 and they'd be singing his name again. Like, it's just, there's zero connection, there's zero kind of credit in the bank, and I don't think any amount of good wins is going to get him any credit in the bank. So, yeah, I think it's a really positive thing, and I'm really intrigued to see what happens now.
Yeah, it's a big decision for the board to make, and it immediately hands them another big decision. And this is the thing: there's a line I go back to a lot from the thick of it, which I'll take Greg's lead and I'll tidy it up a wee bit. But it's basically sacked in a week. Sacked in a year, you messed up. Sacked in a week, we messed up. Now this is somewhere in the middle, but it's still a short enough time that there is no getting away from the fact that if you sack somebody after less than a year, you've got to carry the can for hiring them in the first place. But I think the problem that some football clubs make at times is letting that get in the way, where ultimately, if it is obvious that he's the wrong man for the job, the time to act is now. If you don't think he's going to turn it around, you can't give him more time so that you don't look as bad. And must be tempting.
That was the reason for getting rid of Ian Murray. That was exactly the reason for getting rid of Ian Murray. Yeah.
And I think probably hindsight would suggest that actually maybe acted too soon in that case. Certainly you could build a case to that effect. And that again, though, that amps the pressure on this decision. Like, it would be very tempting not to, as I say, particularly because in the act of sacking a manager, people will look at it and go, well, hang on, you hired them, and now you've got to do it again. Now you've got to hire someone else. So you're almost handing yourself another problem. But it does, it actually means that there's huge pressure on the board at this point now to to act on a way
Get it
forward.
right, yeah.
Robbie, Blair sort of listed the charges against Barry Robson there, I suppose. Are there mitigating circumstances? Are there what's in the pros column for Barry Robson? If they'd come to you and asked you before they'd sacked him, and you had to be his advocate.
I would have been absolutely snookered. If I was an advocate, I'd be. I'm too much of a flying with the wind. But yeah, it's all the positives really came back to last season, and because we lost the likes of Jamie Gullen and we've not got Finlay Pollitt now, yeah, you're kind of looking at what we've got at the moment, and to go back to kind of Blair's answer and what you were talking about there, I think that it's important to remember that the board are probably trying to be as proactive as possible with this one, just on the basis we're only a point off at the moment, and naturally the national media will kind of look at that and it's like, oh my word, Raith Rovers have sacked a manager and they're just a point off the playoff. Can you believe it?
Robbie, sacked an ex-Celtic star.
Yeah, very true.
No legs.
But then if you leave that in a month, then that's the people getting on at the board. Like, we knew from the Ayr United game, Dunfermline game onwards, that this guy should have gone. You let him have Queen's Park away, and we lost that, and then we had the game against Airdrie, and then it rolled on into December, and now all the teams are a mile ahead, and you need to sack him at this point, and we're not getting as much time to think about January. Interesting as well to look at the perception on it. A few people sort of commented about Raith Rovers sacking managers. Again, this is only the second manager that we've sacked since, I believe, 2017. Going off what Enigma of Pie and Bovril fame was saying. So yes, I can see the perception on the outside is probably, as I've said elsewhere, it's probably going to look very harsh on the outside, but I think internally everyone could see that the football wasn't going to plan, and that pros column was pretty slim.
Yeah, as you say, like, he came in, he did do very well, but it was based on one very specific thing, which was just running really hard and knocking the ball in behind the public, basically. There absolutely are. And I think the thing with that, though, is the timing, I think, really helped, because it was the back half of the season, and you have that, you sort of arrive with credit as a new manager. Like, you can basically turn up and say, these are my ideas, and everybody is sort of bought into that by default. So, like, if you're an incumbent manager, if you've been there for 3 years, and then you get to February in a season, and you're like, right, guys, I'm actually going to start beasting you now, you really need to start running. The players are going to be like, the hell are you talking about? Like, we are shattered. What do you mean? Whereas, when you come in and you're new, say, well, I'm the new manager, these are my ideas. So you kind of get that buy-in, and it absolutely worked. And all of a sudden, we were outrunning teams who were already tired, effectively. You know, they were in that back half of the season, didn't want to have to match a side that was suddenly full of energy. But it's such a strategy with a shelf life, because you can only run players so hard for so long. And I think, as I say, at the time it worked. And you can see that in every game that you win, or every game that you don't lose, you kind of keep that. Like, the players can't complain too much if whatever your strategy is working. But when you then have a summer and you come back after the summer and it's the same thing again, it's like, well, there's a reason that we don't all run this much all the time, because it's tiring. Like, you could sustain it over that shortened period. It can't just be the default, or everyone would do it. You know, like, working hard is a really easy thing to say, but like, working hard is almost the easiest thing to do. Like, it takes as a strategy, it doesn't take any skill. There's no intelligence behind it. I just need you to run faster and further than you were gonna. you're not outsmarting anyone, you're just trying to outrun them. And I say, if that was the key, like, everyone would do it. That would just be the default thing. And I think that's the problem, because it's almost like an anti-player strategy. It's the one strategy the players don't want. It's like, please don't run me into the ground. And so as soon as the results stop, the players are geared to be like, why am I running myself into the ground? I'm shattered, I hurt, I'm risking injury. We're not even bloody winning games anymore. You're almost making a rod for your own back with some of that kind of stuff.
There was a point, was it last week on the Terrace podcast, and it was Craig Telford made a point about the type of running. I can't remember the phrase he used, but it's like when an individual player like knows a ball's going out but runs for it anyway, so the fans kind of give him that bit of praise because it looks like you're working hard, looks like you're trying. Feels like that was Barry Robson's tactic. Just like, we'll run really hard all the time and we can't be faulted for no trying. But you're absolutely right that's less than half the battle. Like that's not going to win you games over a full season. It's not going to get you to progress in the cup. So, there was a lot of kind of focus, because they didn't all say when he first came in as well about, like, there's not going to be many teams that work harder than us, etc. And like then you go full circle on that, and it becomes the very rod that you're going to beat him to death with. So, In
his defence, he's not the first manager to try it.
No,
I mean, McGlynn Mark 1. That was. I always said, like, McGlynn's teams were the hardest working team in the league. Do you know what I mean? You might be better footballers than what we are, but you're not going to outrun them. Mm. But there was a plan. The plan wasn't to work hard. There was a plan, and working hard was part of that plan.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As opposed to, it seemed to just be with Barry Robson's team the only plan. Mm-hmm. Like, let's get the ball 3/4 of the way up the pitch and let's win it up there. And then when we win it up there, we're going to do this with it. Right, okay, Gaffer, but what do we do if we don't win it there? No, we're not going to worry about that, because we're going to get the ball back up there and then we're going to try and win it up there again.
Next week we'll do it better.
Yeah, we'll do it better. That honestly, the more I thought about that really pissed me off. Like, that is the equivalent of shouting at a game, score a goal. Like, why did we not think of that?
Yeah, I think this is the problem. This is one of the many problems. It's like, Barry Robson's approach seemed to be the very opposite of, like, win friends and influence people. It's like,
piss everyone off.
Exactly. Don't do anything to ingratiate yourself to anyone, and then you are then entirely reliant on results. Like, you don't have anything else to fall back on. And it's such a risky strategy, because you have to then effectively be a brilliant manager. You have to be so good that your methods are effectively, like, unimpeachable. That you run guys into the ground, and at the end of every week, when they're shattered and they're sore, they go, "Ken, someone, I didn't think this guy had it, but he's got it. Like, this makes sense now." And as I say, I think to a degree that was happening at the back end of the season. But what never happened, what never worked, was his kind of public persona and his sort of communication, in a direct sense, first of all, that for as long as he's been here, we've been asking questions about his demeanour and the way that he conducts his interviews and all that kind of stuff. Not to turn this into a promo for the Terrace, but I was also listening to it, and Andy Harrow was talking to Craig Fowler about this exact scenario, and the word that he used, he was kind of looking for a word to describe Barry Robson's interviews. He was like, he's not rude, which I would completely agree with. I don't think he was ever rude. He says his interviews were stolid. He's like, that's exactly the word. That's exactly what it is. Like, he's not rude. He's not aggressive. He's not even boring. It's just stolid. Just like, I don't want to listen to this, and you didn't want to do this, and you're not communicating anything other than just annoyance to me with the things that you are saying. Like, it'd have been better just sending a photo of himself for every interview.
Yeah.
And just let Davey talk to a cardboard cutout, and it would have been like a net benefit compared to the stuff that he was saying.
the type of personality that he is just came across to quite a lot of the people that interacted with him. Now, I've never met Barry Robson, didn't have any interactions with him whatsoever in that sense. But like speaking to others, like whether it's people that are in the press or whether it's across the board, you just hear stories where he was really the polar opposite of Neil Collins, because Neil Collins, for all his faults, for all whatever people said, you might not have liked his football. And I know that he left, go back to America at the first opportunity, which kind of jilted lover stuff, but he went in, and every person that he met, he would genuinely come across as being like, come across, shake their hand, ask them a bit about themselves and try and find out a bit more. Whereas Barry Robson's just seemingly been the opposite. And I do wonder if you look at, because there is multiple aspects to the game. It's not just the on the pitch stuff, and there's a lot that we as fans won't see. And one of those things is going to be man management. And I think that's probably an area where he has fell down, probably quite heavily, because you could see him being that type of guy where he just kind of shrugs stuff off that other managers might prioritise.
Yeah,
I think thinking about this exact thing. Sorry, I was just going to say we've likened him to a few managers now. So we talked about him being a bit like Barry Smith. We talked about him being a bit like Grant Murray. And I think when we go back to that thing of, is he a poor communicator? And we kept saying, like, it's publicly, like, and yeah, it maybe doesn't matter and it buys him credit, but it's about how he communicates with the players and how he communicates off the pitch. The more I hear about him, the more I hear people talking about interactions with him. I think you're right, Robbie. Like, it's actually just a lack of ability to communicate kind of warmly with everybody. Because, like, you hear stories of folk that have bumped into players or have been speaking to players. They're quite, I mean, look at the photos today on Instagram. They're cock a hoop that he's away. Do you know what I mean? And it's that thing of you. It's like you say, Duncan. If you want boys to run themselves into the ground, they've got to like you a little bit. Like they've got to want to run through a back wall for you. And like you hear folk talking about Barry Smith, and publicly he was awful. Like his interviews were dreadful. He actually openly said he didn't like doing them. He used to try and send out like Laurie Ellis and stuff to do them for him, but he was incredibly well liked behind the scenes. Everybody seemed to really like him, and the players really liked him. Ian Murray, the players really liked him.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to get really wanky for a second, but it's that thing of, I feel like a celebrity who's learned something about themselves. You know, that journey they all go on when they go on these TV shows. Like, I've kind of figured out what I want in a manager, and I've realised that being really good at football is not actually the single most important thing to me now. And I don't know if it's an age thing. I mean, obviously, I really want them to be good at football. It's important. I'm not belittling that. But, like, I'm the kind of guy who, like, I love Ted Lasso, the TV show, just because it's inherently positive. It's just such a nice thing to be around. Like, I love all that. Like, Neil Collins saying, our Rovers, sign me up. I'd have run through a brick wall for him at that point. Like, I am in. And Paul Hanlon's statement, oh my God, give him the job. Like, I'm totally sold.
So I'm with you on. I mean, actually, no. I'm with you on this to like 60%. Like,
maybe not.
Quite.
Not
I sort of agree with your sentiment rather than your presentation. But in quite a few different senses, a long time ago, I'm not quite as old as you either, but still a long time ago, I kind of made peace with the fact that in a sort of global sense, we're not going to be any good.
No.
Like, and that's fine. See, if what I was really interested in, more than anything else, if my number one priority was my football team was to win every week, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about the Rovers.
No, totally.
So then, if that's not number one, then what is? And it comes to your point. I have to tell you, actually, I think the thing more than anything else, the thing that I value more than anything else, is just having a big laugh. So actually, like, because this was the thing, it was something that Carol had said in our group chat weeks and weeks ago. Something she mentioned about, I can't remember broadly what the context was, but it was something about Donald Trump. And I remembered someone had said the fact that one of the reasons that Donald Trump is so weirdly sort of non-human, he seems like an entirely different entity, is because it's impossible to imagine him laughing. And I kind of feel the same about Barry Robson. It's like,
Yeah, it's totally.
just seems oddly kind of humourless.
Unless it's about the burgers at the Dean Park Hotel.
Yeah, Biocage was very annoyed about that. I thought he was laughing
a
at all.
discussion
Yeah,
in
he was laughing
itself
at
on
that.
Pie and Bovril, by the way. That was one to
But,
watch.
yes, sorry, but as so to your point, but this is the thing, is I don't need my manager to win every week. I would like him not to lose every week, because at a certain point, that does get quite annoying.
Yeah.
But if you're conducting yourself properly, and as I say, look, I've not heard anything, and it probably is actually quite important, because we keep alluding to like things we've heard. Nothing, certainly I've not heard anything like actually out of order, nothing
Yeah, no,
bad, like none, no, not
No.
sort of dancing around anything like that whatsoever. It's generally like just being a little bit standoffish or not going out and doing the mascots and stuff like that. But it's like, no, I want you to be doing those things. When you do your interviews, I want you to be saying things that seem broadly representative of the game that's just happened. And like, ultimately, and I think this is where you were getting to as well, Blair, because you said it already, the club have made big strides over the last few years towards being more community focused and being part of the community and actually having real values that they not only kind of espouse, but that they actually also then live up to. I think we're about to see kind of the back end of this week, the club doing a fair bit around kind of a men's health campaign. And it's beyond just, here's a tweet, there'll be another one in a week's time. There is actual action to back it up. And your manager is basically your most visible representative, so you want them taking part in all that kind of stuff. And it just seemed to me like Barry Robson was a bit of a throwback. That he kind of, and I'm really making assumptions now, but it felt like in his own head, kind of saw himself as a bit of like a manager from the 60s, almost. Where it's like, I'm going to turn up and I'm going to manage the football team. And I'm not really going to talk to the players. I'm certainly not going to talk to the fans. Like, I'm not here for photo ops. I'm not here to do a little spot for the latest sponsors or whatever. Like, I'm here to manage a football team because I am a football manager. And that's not the job. Like, maybe that's the job in some places. That's not the job here. Like, if there are sponsors turning up because they need a spot, somebody's kicking balls into the boot of a motor and they want the manager there doing wee bits, that's paying somebody's wages. Like, that's keeping the lights on, and that's part of your job to do that.
See, to take your Trump analogy, it's just that one step further. Can you actually imagine Barry Robson going to the Victoria Hospital, and doing the kids' ward and going round and meeting all the kids and giving them their selection box at Christmas and shaking the mummy's hand and the daddy's hand and getting his photo taken? And listen, I have no doubt he probably does it and he could do it. I can't see it. Like, it's like not being able to see Trump laugh. Trump clearly laughs. I can't see it. Like, it just doesn't fit.
That's a good point, because I think you're absolutely right. Like, we know he went to Holland and did that charity gig for Celtic the day after we
got really upset at a referee.
I know, by United, but it's like, we're not trying to paint him as some kind of inhuman monster. But as you say, it's clearly not his natural demeanour. That's not where he kind of lives and breathes.
See, for me, I would probably speculate that I think the thing for him is that he's been at some very big clubs in the shape of Celtic and Middlesbrough and even Aberdeen, and that is on a lot bigger scale than Rovers. And I would maybe suggest, how true this is, that maybe he kind of just saw this as a stepping stone on the way back up the ladder, and that he just needed to, it's a bit more simple in terms of the football and the style, and just try to break it down into like hard pressing and running, and then the community aspect will, people will enjoy that because it's hard work and it's running and you can get away with that, and then if you win games people will be happy with you, and then it'll all come naturally. Whereas the reality is that there is that aspect of it that you do need to get, and we've seen it across plenty of managers over the years. just how
The year
how
actually
it
was
can
all
be.
right. Plenty of managers over the year. That was a
Well,
Freudian
that
slip.
in itself true, but more just that even with stuff like with John McGlynn, like might not have been the best at doing interviews, certainly from that, but there was always that he would make time for people and do stuff. I've experienced that myself, and he would ultimately go out his way if he felt that there was going to be some benefit, and that does have a lasting impact on people as well. Like people do things and they'll want to involve the club, and then if the club get involved and then they take the time with the manager or the people behind the scenes to do that, that then cements people further and they feel part of the club. Whereas you can't see it with Barry Robson. Maybe it's easy to say, and I
want a manager that's going to dance at the Player of the Year dance. That's what I want.
I think this is it. Like, this genuinely is, and I don't think this is like an outrageous viewpoint, but I think he's again, to make assumptions, he's almost come in and gone like, well, like, I'm the manager, so I'm the head of the football department, so I'm going to do the football department. And the charity foundation, that exists before me, that'll exist after me. The volunteers at the football club, they are here before me, they'll be here after me. It's almost like I don't need to do that. Like, that stuff happens without me, so I'm just going to focus on my bit. And as in some places, that's probably fine, but it's just what it doesn't do, to come right back round to the original point, is it doesn't win you any favours. No. Doesn't win you any friends. So when things start to go against you, there's nobody there who's like, actually, I'm not going to call for the manager to get sacked, because last week he took 10 minutes to talk to me and actually made me feel pretty good about myself.
Yeah, so, totally.
Like, Greg, we've obviously all gone pretty hard on Barry Robson there. Bit of a kind of character assassination. Given the situation that we're in, though, and maybe steering slightly back towards the football side, does it make sense at this point to just blame all the world's ills on Barry Robson?
I think it's a potentially convenient thing to do. Time will tell whether Barry Robson is correct to be maligned as the kind of chased out of town and never come back kind of thing. But I don't know if it is that, because we've actually acknowledged quite a lot in recent weeks that the players aren't exempt from criticism in the poor run of form. That for all that the players maybe aren't 100% clear on what they've been asked to do, for all that the tactics have maybe been raising eyebrows, to maybe put it politely, the players haven't been playing to the best of their abilities like every week. So there's an element of, it'll be genuinely intriguing to see come Saturday, come the following week, how things change, if they change, because again, there's no guarantee that there's going to be kind of baby out with the bathwater stuff. But no, objectively, I think it's too soon to say everything's Barry Robson's fault. We don't know that for a fact, but I would like to think that maybe a month down the line, we're going, everything was Barry's fault, definitely.
I think from a kind of playing perspective, that would be my point of view. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm one of the players there, and I've been playing pretty poorly recently, I think the thing to do is to go, that was the manager's fault. Like, that's why I've been playing badly. Because it just gives you a fresh start, whether it's true or not. Like, from a confidence point of view, if you've been in poor form and you've been in and out of the team, you wake up this morning and you're heading into training and you think, that was his fault. Because I'm not terrible. I can do X, Y, and Z. And actually, it's because of him that I've not been doing it. So that low confidence, that self-doubt that I've had, that's out the window. Fresh start. I'm back at it. And then just take it as a fresh start. And as we said, it will be a fresh start under Paul Hanlon. Blair, you already mentioned the sort of short written statement that we got. So I'm going to give you it in full because it is good.
That's great.
So Paul Hanlon had this to say, it's a privilege to be asked to take on this role. Recent results haven't been good enough and we've already started the work to put that right. I've got real belief in these players and in what we can still achieve this season. On Saturday, I want us to look like a Rovers team our supporters are excited to watch and give them a performance they can really get behind. So as you say, that is music to our ears. A cynic would suggest deliberately written to be music to our ears. But first of all, I am not a cynic. I would never be accused of anything like that. But also, like, fine. I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast before. Pander to me. I would like to be pandered to. That's why I'm here. And this, like, so whether Paul Hanlon actually wrote those words or he didn't, I don't know. He's put his name to them, and I can imagine him saying them because I want to. That suits my kind of outlook at the moment.
Can you imagine Barry Robson saying them?
No, of course I can't. This is the thing. Like, said all along, like, he's a PR nightmare. And this is the point. If Barry Robson is a PR nightmare, Robbie, is Paul Hanlon, is he, the phrase I've got here is impeccable vibes from Paul Hanlon?
Yes. He comes across as being very professional and yet still easy to get behind with a statement like that coming out. Paul Hanlon has gone off and he's done his badges. Certainly got his A and B, and I'm not sure about the pro licence, but certainly when he was at Hibs, he was working towards his A and B licences, and also as well he's got a degree. That he not only did he get a degree, he got one with distinction. So. Yeah, if we're going for a campaign for bigging up Paul Hanlon here, yes, I'm all aboard. And
he's handsome too.
Yeah, wealth of experience. And
Blair doesn't think Barry Robson has been doing enough for the foundation. Paul Hanlon's got his own foundation.
Exactly. But it goes back to what you've said, though. It's a fresh start, and I think that's the good thing, is that look, the players can absolutely point to it and sort of say, well, if, say, Jack Hamilton bangs in a hat-trick on Saturday, and then he just says, well, that last guy, he was chucking long balls up to me. What do you want me to do about that? Now we are back to playing a bit of football. I think it's one where we can move on, we can get a fresh start, and hopefully we can start a positive, sort of just getting everyone back on the same page. Because, again, it goes back to a bit about last season and a bit about it. He doesn't need to revolutionise things. We've seen caretaker coaches and interim managers try that before when Kevin Cuthbert decided to play Kevin Nisbet at right wing back. So there's no need to be going down that route. Not that we've got a Kevin Nisbet type figure in the ranks at the moment. But yeah, just I think it's a huge thing to be able to do that. And the fans can all automatically, you can sense a sort of collectively, right, he's gone. We can start moving forward now. Which is, as I say, it's huge.
Blair, you gave us a long list of things you want in a manager there. In terms of what you want in an interim manager, Paul Hanlon ticking a lot of those boxes?
Yeah, totally. I'm actually, I said intrigued at the beginning. I'm genuinely quite intrigued because I don't think for a second that the possibility of him not just being an interim manager is completely off the table here. And I'm honestly not trying to kind of put any pressure on or shoot ahead of things, but I don't get the feeling that this is just a Paul, we need you to take the team for a couple of games because we're definitely getting a new manager in by the end of the month. Like, I think that the search will begin and they'll be looking for things. So you're looking for somebody who the players will respond to, somebody who the players will look up to, somebody that the players will run through a brick wall for. And somebody who actually like has the good kind of grace of the players, somebody who they like, and he clearly seems like a popular member of the squad. I can't imagine it's an easy transition, to be fair, from being one of the boys to being the boss. But he doesn't also. I genuinely know nothing really about Paul Hanlon on a kind of personal sense, but he doesn't strike me as life and soul of the party. Like there's kind of not quite Dave Neary vibes, but that kind of like he strikes me as a real kind of sensible head. Like Robbie says, are we getting his degree and stuff and doing all that kind of stuff in the background? He's got the foundation set up with Lewis Stevenson. He's clearly a guy that's got a good head on his shoulders. He's really well thought of within the game. Nobody seems to have a bad word to say about him. Really intrigued. Yeah, and actually quite exciting. It's definitely something the fans can get behind. It's, again, we talked about the board like if you're going to sack a manager and you're going to have an interim, for me, they basically had two options. They do this, or they put John Potter back in charge like they did before. And I think that there's enough dissenting voices at the moment questioning John Potter's role and recruitment and everything else. I think it's a really shrewd move for the board to take somebody who is inherently positive and inherently well liked, and to use them as the interim, because nobody, if we get beat on Saturday, I'm going to say this now, we get beat on Saturday, there is nobody who's going to be booing Paul Hanlon. Nobody. It'll still be Barry Robson's fault.
Yeah, I could take that
I've
right
just
there.
realised you probably could take the Gaston song from Beauty and the Beast and just replace it with Hanlon, and then you'd be right on the money about how this podcast is going right now.
But I think, again though, to go back to my point about being pandered to, like, sometimes that's what you want. It's like, yeah, well, the big handsome guy that ticks all the boxes. Oh, I'd hate that.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yeah.
didn't give me the really nice guy with a really kind of solid career who everybody likes. Like, ooh. You know, it makes sense on the face of it. Now, the proof will be in the pudding. Maybe he's the worst guy who's ever tried to put out a football team in his life. We'll find out on Saturday. Like, possibly, he has no managerial talent whatsoever. I suspect that's not the case, and ultimately there's only one way to find out. But on the face of it, as I say, it looks like, you know, about as positive as you can expect from an interim. And just your point there about kind of his character, I suppose. It seems like that kind of guy where, actually I suppose, it's situations like this. You know, like the manager's on a sugary peg and it's like somebody from the board gets some senior players together to just kind of sound them out. It feels like Paul Hanlon's been in that sort of senior player type mould since he was about 22.
Yeah.
Like, he's just always been like, aye, let's find out what he thinks and we'll see. Like, just seems like that kind of guy. Greg, I suppose in a slightly more actual kind of football type sense, this is a classic question for a new manager coming in. What's in Paul Hanlon's inbox this week?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's obviously had an inspired start for Josh Gentles, because he's motivated him to get on the score sheet for Wales already. So I mean, yeah,
Box entry.
aye. So this is just how Paul Hanlon's going to roll from here on in. No, I think I think it's listen. This is, you could probably put a cliche alert in here, but fundamentally, I think what Paul Hanlon's going to be focused on is getting the players enjoying themselves again. And listen, that doesn't have to translate as champagne football on the park. Hopefully it does. But I think what it does mean is, and again, I've nothing other than even sparse anecdotal evidence to go on that the players weren't enjoying training under Robson or anything like that. But there's a unity that was lacking. There's a certain cohesion to the playing squad, which then extends to everybody associated with the club, which extends to the terraces, etc. And I think, that's probably top of his list, is just stopping and taking stock of, like, where are we and what we're doing, and realistically, okay, we want to look up the table and do all these great things on the park, but fundamentally we need to be better teammates to each other. We need to be better players, pushing their own standards and kind of taking more accountability. Because again, that will be part of his conversation with the players. Undoubtedly, is, listen, manager's away, but we need to be stepping up a wee bit here. But fundamentally, it's about getting that PR battle won early on. And I say battle, it's not going to be a battle. I think it's all going to be relatively plain sailing for him. He'd need to go out and like slap one of the mascots to ruin that. So like he'll, and even then that might not be enough. But I'm
really fed up with this nice guy reputation that I've got.
Yeah. So, barring him taking leave of his senses completely, I think it's just that it's getting that belief back in the squad, and it's getting that kind of. I actually don't think he's going to totally overhaul the system and the expectations on the players, but it's about bringing enjoyment back and getting that kind of, I don't know, that joie de vivre back for some of the players that clearly have lost it in recent weeks and months.
Yeah, I think there's. you can read a bit into the kind of social media output this morning. Now it's like 4 still images, and you can make any story you want out of that. And I'm absolutely certain if you'd gone to training last week, you could have gotten 4 photos of people smiling. But at the same time, I think it is a fitting and, I would guess, accurate narrative that this morning the story is the guys are coming in, Paul Hanlon is greeting them, and they're delighted. They're buzzing. You can see it. The most obvious one is the photo with Lewis Stevenson, and you can very clearly see his entire mood is, I am delighted for you. Like, this is class. And then, as a result, he's obviously going to be knocking his pan in to do the best he can for his big pal. Like, that, I think it just is the dynamic. Like, it just is. And it'll be interesting to see.
Juxtaposition as well with, I was thinking about, just while Greg was talking there about Brian Graham when he took over at Partick, because it is actually the polar opposite of that, because you've got, within a couple of weeks, Brian Graham's in the press slagging folk off and calling the players out, and do you know what I mean? He was talking, remember the very first interview he gave? Yeah, but he was talking about the standards in training and stuff, and I'm like, well, you were in training a week ago. Like, you were a part of that. So not all about him is quite an important thing, because I tell you right now, see if Paul Hanlon takes charge on Saturday and we get beat, and he's in charge again the week after and we get beat, and he's in charge again the week after and we get beat, and the board say, Paul, thanks very much, but we're definitely going to hate to replace you, son. We're going to get another manager in. There's no way he comes out with an interview and goes, well, maybe Paul Hanlon won't be here next week.
On a similar...
Can't imagine Paul Hanlon referring to the third person at all.
Which,
by the way, is another tick in the column for old Paul Hanlon there.
But this isn't like a make or bust thing.
On a similar note, though, I do think that if we get another manager in, like, say, like, someone comes available and the board are like, yeah, we're absolutely going for this guy. Right, Paul, he's done fine. We appreciate your efforts. He's not going to be, as you say, referring to himself in a third person saying, oh, I don't think they'd want Paul Hanlon in the dressing room. Paul Hanlon's going to be, right, cool, I appreciate the opportunity. It's something that I want to try, and he'll get on with the day job because he's Paul Hanlon. That's his MO. Just
before we're on the verge of canonising Paul Hanlon before he's even done anything yet. But just
it's all downhill for here, Duncan. We know this.
I'm really looking forward to his first kind of sit down interview for one reason. Other than all the other stuff that we've already said, which is that every single new manager who comes into a job always says, I don't know about the levels in training. I think we're really going to have to step that up the next couple of weeks. Paul Hanlon is going to be the first manager in history to be like, right, we're just going to take it easy in training, actually. The training is too hard. Just slow down. Yeah. Put your feet up. It's fine. Yes. Anyway, let's talk about the game a little bit. So we do play Airdrie on Saturday. They sacked their own manager, of course. Just at the end of October, they let Danny Lennon go. They had... So I don't think he was actually in charge for the very beginning, but in their first 11 games, they had 4 points. I think he maybe took 8 of those. One of them, obviously, they got from us. They have had, though, 4 points in their 3 games since they sacked him. Their caretaker, Aaron Taylor Sinclair, doing pretty well. They were unlucky not to beat Thistle on Friday night. A terrible goalkeeping error to kind of drop 2 points. Robbie, do you reckon that's just a bit of a new manager bounce, or are Airdrie a kind of different beast to the side that we drew with earlier in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid question. Do we new out manager bounce them? Do we have the momentum going into this one now on that front? Time will tell. Yeah, with them, Aaron Taylor Sinclair's done a good job, as you say, to sort of get them grounded and to be able to sort of recoup from where Danny Lennon, unfortunately, wasn't getting the results for them. Just one to keep an eye on, I think. They've done relatively well in their last few games, been able to go up and get the result and get their first win of the season, and then to play that way against Partick Thistle, it does stand out. There's a few players that within their squad that they've got that do look lively on a day. Ewan Henderson, I mentioned him on the post-match podcast against Queen's Park. He's on the score sheet again. Chris Mockreigh's in there. McMaster, the likes. We also do know at the back that they have got Sean McGinty, who will header everything into oblivion. So quite glad we got rid of Barry Robson on that point as well. But yeah, I feel like it will be a tough game. Airdrie have been a bogey team undoubtedly for us over the last few seasons. Neil Collins, the only manager to actually beat them. But look, there's no reason we can't go out and put in a performance and keep this sort of positive vibe that Paul Hanlon started with based on photos going.
Photos in about 60 words.
Yep, that's enough for me.
So you mentioned Ewan Henderson there because, as you say, 6 goals already for the season. His teammates combined have 4. So Ewan Henderson very much doing the kind of heavy lifting there. Blair, does that suggest a strategy for you? Is it a case of keeping Ewan Henderson quiet and then going from there?
It probably does, to be fair. I mean, I was just having a wee look back there. Since the 4th of October, they've played 6 games. They've got 2 draws and a win in those 6 games, but they've only got 3 goals amongst all of that. Do you know what I mean? They lost 3-0 against St Johnstone. They won that one game against Arbroath 1-0. They drew, obviously, with Partick last week, 1 each. But a 4-0 defeat to Dunfermline and a 0-0 draw away to Queen's Park. And we all know how easy a place Queen's Park is to go. So, yeah, I mean, a team that's not scoring goals, I would hope Paul Hanlon's able to set up a defence. I would imagine that would be one of his strengths. So I'm hoping we can get back to... Remember when we were like a team that was hard to break down and a team that was hard to score against and we had loads of clean sheets? Wasn't it that long ago? Like, I feel like that's something we can kind of get back to, and it's something to build on, because I'm still not massively convinced that we're going to suddenly start scoring hundreds of goals because Barry's away. I'd love it. I would love it if we beat them, but I'm not convinced it's the goals are going to come as quick as we need. So we need the back to shore up a bit. I think we need to stop conceding silly goals and kind of build from there.
And Greg, at the other end of the park for Airdrie, as I say, they had Cade Melrose, is that his name? Mm-hmm. Was the goalkeeper was in for the last game. Made a really terrible mistake in the last minute to throw away those 2 points. They also signed Andy McNeil, I think this week, basically, or possibly tail end of last week as well. So it could possibly be a rare Starks Park appearance for Andy McNeil as well. On balance, would you rather be up against a cold Andy McNeil or shaky wrists Cade Melrose?
I would rather we're in a position to make either of them actually do something for a change, because it just like, and I know that's just a borderline politician's answer, but I feel like for so long now we haven't. And I agree with Blair, we're not going to just turn into a shackles off attacking team all of a sudden. But actually, we might start playing naturally to some players' strengths, and again, speculation. But if somebody like McMullen is to come back in, and instead of just punting balls up for him to just constantly, maybe then there's a ball on the deck, try to play into the channels and utilise a bit of his pace, or so. We might also try this radical idea of maybe shooting from distance a wee bit more. I don't think it really matters then who Airdrie have got on goals, as long as we make them work, as long as we actually look to not just simply create chances through 56 penalty box entries, but actually, like, if we create tangible opportunities that we can, because Morton, the last game, we were about half an hour into the game, 35 minutes into the game. Actually, I'm not convinced either keeper had much to do, but we hadn't done anything up that end of the park, and that's been too much of a thing for too long. That we're not working goalkeepers, we're not working defences, and so joke aside, I don't think it matters who's in goals. I just really hope that we give them a challenging afternoon, and if we draw or we get beat, or it doesn't matter. But as long as we've given it a right good go.
Yeah, and in that spirit, Robbie, it's tricky to second guess Paul Hanlon, given that this I think will be the first time he's ever picked an 11. But you can certainly give me your thoughts on changes you think that Paul Hanlon might make. But if it's easier, you can give me changes that you would make. How would you set the Rovers up for this one?
So with this one, I think it's actually quite difficult in the sense that, I mean, been a bit of talk about potentially going 2 up top. You would really need to be looking to do that with Smith and Hamilton, because, I mean, we don't know if Josh Gentles is going to be back for this one from international duty. Whether Wales have got an additional game, I'm not too sure. I wouldn't be changing too much, to be honest, in the sense of just really keeping it in the way that it was. I mean, there's the difficulty in that you've got sort of Scott Brown in that number 10 role. You've probably got a few changes that you could make in the midfield, with whether you want to bring in Sean Byrne +1, whether you're going with someone like a 4-4-2 to mix it up, or whether you're going a 4-2-3-1 and keeping Brown in that sort of number 10 role. So yeah, I mean, I've not really thought too much this far ahead. I've just kind of assumed that Paul Hanlon's going to be absolutely fantastic and life's going to be great.
Paul's got it covered.
Aye,
Kick back. Blair, are you prepared to speculate beyond that?
Yeah, I want to see rip-roaring changes on Saturday, because we were rotten on Saturday past. Actually, that's not entirely true. We weren't rotten, we were just toothless. I would like to see some changes. I'm still hoping beyond hope that Byrne's fit, because I still think he's quite important for us in terms of making us tick. I would go 4-4-2 personally with the team that we've got at the moment, kind of back to basics to an extent, but also mainly because Mullen had such a good game on Saturday that I think to take him out tactically for this Saturday feels really, really harsh. So as much as I think Paul McMullen has a chance of coming back in and perhaps kicking on a little bit with a new manager or whatever, I don't think for me Saturday's the time to do it. I'd like to see Byrne and Brown playing together in the midfield, just the two of them. I'd go Mullen on the right, Easton on the left, and I would go Smith and Hamilton. That's exactly what I've got written down. I think Smith's probably not, like 100% ready for 90 minutes yet, but if there's one team in this league that you could probably start him against, it's probably the bottom of the league team. So, get him out there, get him up the top. He'll do a bit of running about, Hamilton, and then when Josh Mullen's inevitably putting his 30 to 40 crosses in for the game, you've got to hope that there's two of them in there, and then you've got Easton at the back post mopping things up when the ball's coming out the other side. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of positives to kind of look at with the squad that we've got. And plus, I mean, Ross Matthews has been to be crapping himself. He's a Hearts fan, so big Hibs legend in charge now.
I mean, it was when on Sunday when Alan was saying, whatever happened to 4-4-2, and really since he said that, I was like, well, like that actually, that's what suits this team best. Like, we're banging on all season about how we don't have a number 10. Like, fine, then just don't play one then.
Don't play one.
Like, that's one way to get around it. I was frantically trying to double check there. I think Josh Gentles will still be away if my navigation of a shoddy Welsh FA website keeps me right. I think they're playing Japan tonight.
Yep.
And they play the USA on Saturday at 2:30. So, almost certainly won't be Josh Gentles. I actually would have put him in if he was available. But certainly, I've got no issues with Callum Smith going to do it. And actually, said this on Sunday about Callum Smith, that he's almost like that sort of like undefined forward role.
Yeah.
He's not really any one thing. I think that's an asset in something like this, where you go in and say, all right, you're going out in a front two, but actually the fact that you can do a bit of everything helps. Because actually, even if he is dropping deep at times and becoming a sort of de facto number 10, he's got the skill set to do it to a fair degree. So
he did that really well under Ian Murray. I remember him being like the goal at Hibs, the goal down at Annan. Like he's very good. He's actually probably arguably our most composed in terms of a one-on-one. He seems to do really well. He's maybe not. I don't think it's really unfair to say that he's maybe not as technically able as some of the other players that we've got in there, like Vaughan and stuff. But in terms of getting the ball to feet and kind of breaking out of the back line and progressing through and squaring a goalie up and finding the bottom corner, he's got a relatively good track record with that, actually. Yeah. So it'd be really good to see him, and I can't actually remember him and Hamilton playing much together.
No, I think we've always,
it's a combination,
particularly with Murray, we tended to sort of use the one forward as such. And use Vaughan more as kind of the foil. So you saw a fair degree of success. And again, we don't know if it's been kept under wraps about Lewis Vaughan. I know that the club would probably want to celebrate it in the sense he was in one of the photos coming in for training. Great to see Richard Chin back running though. He was saying that he's optimistic of getting back next month, I think, when I spoke to him at the gym. Said hello. So
definitely. Having those two back make a huge difference.
Massive.
It's obviously one of these things that, like, categorically, that'd be one of the things Barry Robson will have been looking at. Like, if he'd had those two, he would have been in a better place.
Or Lewis,
but he didn't, and he's gone now. So moving on. So I say I would have gone with a 4-4-2. Kept defence the same. Like we've said, Brown or Matthews. Probably a little bit of a coin toss on recent form, and probably not in a great sense, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But fine, why not? We'll take your logic. Scott Brown gets the nod over Hearts supporters, and I think you have to keep Josh Mullen on the right hand side. One of the very, very few who came at that last game with a bit of credit. So that's the way I would go. Greg, any thoughts on any of that for Saturday?
No, I mean 4-4-2. I think is the obvious one, but it's obvious to us. I'm not going to legitimately won't grumble at whatever lineup or formation Paul Hanlon picks. I think he knows the squad. He knows. Listen, without getting swinging back to anti-Robson stuff, he knows what the players themselves behind closed doors feel didn't work, and whilst that's not necessarily going to totally drive his thinking, he knows what the players felt were beyond their capabilities or were beyond their understanding in footballing terms. I think he'll make it as straightforward for them as possible because ultimately it looks better for him. So whatever team he puts out and whatever formation he puts out, I'm going to have inherent confidence that it is actually the right one.
It's a really good point, and it's something that you always get this talk about. Has the manager lost the dressing room? Have the players chucked it and all this kind of stuff? And I suppose this couples with kind of new manager bounce as well on the other side of the coin, where it's like very, very rarely in football as a whole do I think you get players who are ever actively like, I don't like this guy, I want him gone. I am not going to shoot on target. I'm not going to turn up for training today. Like all that kind of stuff. I just don't think happens. I think most of them have got too much kind of professional pride for that.
Yeah.
But subconsciously, 100% you will get, I'm not going the extra bit. Like I'm not going to do that extra yard. I'm not going to make sure my nutrition's exactly 100% spot on because I'm actually a bit fed up. And these wee things that sneak in. Remember from the day turned up We had Cody David when they were doing like 10-yard shuttle runs. He only ever did 9. Like, you can kind of see everybody just falling into that kind of like, the gaffers no look like, I can't be arsed for this. You're absolutely right. Paul Hanlon's been that. He's been in that. So even if he's been doing everything, he still knows exactly what everybody else is scunnered about. And that's what I mean about the new manager bounce. Like, how much of that is actually just a flat reaction to what's gone before?
Yeah.
Where it's like, everything's been red, so now we're going to be green. Everything's been up, so now it's all down. And actually, it's just the players just get a change, and a change is as good as a rest. Some of these guys might need a rest as well, but maybe it is as much as that. And then obviously the long term is a totally different story. But yeah, they should be. Like, I'm repeating ourselves now, but like when they came in this morning, I do not believe for a second that was a misrepresentation when we saw those photos of them all beaming as they came in this morning, because they're like,
Absolutely.
This is going to be a totally different kettle of fish. Sorry, Robbie, did you come?
No, I think it's interesting that you speak about this, and this is probably like football fans kind of theory crafting far deeper than you need to. But with Paul Hanlon, and again it goes to Lewis Stevenson as well, given the sort of time that they both spent at Hibs together. You look at the experiences that those two went through, and they'll be able to tell you everything in terms of like what you could experience in a football changing room, because they've seen it. They've been to plenty of probably top 6 finishes. Then they've had a relegation where they've lost a cup final 5-1 against their biggest rivals, which again, when you see players and you just think, your heart wasn't in that. And that's, I know that certainly listening to other podcasts from other players at that time, that there's been other Hibs players that have sort of levelled that against some of the other sort of people that were in the dressing room at that point. But they've also been there on the best times as well. They've seen camaraderie and players that have came in and made a huge difference, and the importance of having that within dressing rooms. You look back at some of the interviews Paul Hanlon's done, and he's talking about like wanting to basically harbour the passion that even someone like Neil Lennon had, in terms of how he could be with the players and getting them really wanting the desire. So again, it's probably something that as a football fan you look into way too much more than Paul Hanlon, who's probably just rocked up and he's like, right, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, rather than looking into sort of the specifics of individual psychology of each individual player. But I think that there will be that aspect. So keen to see how it pans out. I think it's just really refreshing now. I think that in general, like as a support, it's just a lot of people really struggled to take to Barry Robson, and now we've got that sort of fresh break, and it's kind of like that. I know I described it, it's kind of like when you're at a house party and there's one person that's on a total downer being a pain in the arse, and then as soon as they go and everyone's like, right, we're back on it, like, let's go. Maybe it's a bit simplistic to look at that way, but that's the kind of vibe that they're giving off at the moment, if we're doing a vibe check.
I think the other thing as well is, like, Paul Hanlon is an ambitious guy. He's obviously had an eye on management for a long time. He'll have categorically spent this whole season in his own head going, I would never have done that. I would never have done that. I'd have gone and spoken to him after that. Like, he needs an arm around the shoulder and nobody's talked to him. Like, all these bits. Like, he's probably been putting together training plans in his own head.
Aye.
Just, like, again, you can translate that to any kind of workplace, where you've got a gaffer who's doing something and you're like, that's not how I would have done that. Rightly or wrongly. Again, the proof will be in the pudding. But it's not like it's come as a surprise. It's not like, I think naturally in his own head he wouldn't have been able to help himself putting alternative plans and all that kind of stuff in place.
As well, even going back to last season, he had 2 opportunities to sort of say, that interim, I'd be quite interested in doing that. Whereas he's taken his time. It's clearly been quite a methodical thing where he's thought, like, I'm at that point in my career now where something that I might want to explore. Got a year left on my deal after this, but let's have a look at what it's all about and sort of being able to go there and having that confidence. So, yeah, really hope it does work out for him.
Yeah, definitely. Right, before we go, we've taken a good bit of time on that, despite what Scott was suggesting before we get started. So there's not that much to talk about. I feel like Scott's not met any of us before. But we do still have a Should McStay or Should Dargo. But of course, this will be no bother at all. The 3 big brains on show will get this in jig time. up the road. Greg,
Over to you, Robbie.
yeah, Greg, you've very kindly prepared tonight's.
Yeah. Okay. So just hoping it was done like quite literally pulled together in about 4 minutes while Blair inhaled his tea earlier. So it hasn't been fully fact checked. So I'm hoping it stands up. So clue number 1: I finished my playing career with Raith Rovers.
John Daly. Got a wee trophy or something, didn't know? A painting or a plaque?
That really annoyed me at the time because I don't think we'd had a testimonial for David McGurn or Grant Anderson at that point. And I was like, these guys are like bona fide legends of the club. And yet we've just a random plaque for John Daly, leaving halfway through a season.
Somebody that's retired from us. Ian Davidson.
Christoph Berra.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
That would
Clue
fit
number-
with the Paul Hanlon of it all too.
Clue number 2: I was capped internationally up to under 21s.
It's not
Oh, it's not
Christoph
Christoph
Berra.
Berra then.
It's not Ian Davidson as well, based on the
I
first
thought
one.
it was Ian Davidson.
John Daly must have played international football, surely.
Greg, can I, just because I didn't want to... Could you reread that clue for me?
Okay. I was capped internationally up to under 21s.
Yeah, he hasn't said he's Scottish.
So someone that's finished their career with Rovers, capped up to under 21s.
Yeah. Antonio Calderon. I don't even know if he was capped at 21s. Actually, very unlikely, isn't it, really, given that he's Spanish?
I'm going to stick with John Daly. I feel like
Falls
he
into
must
the
have
category.
had full caps. But maybe no.
I know it's not, but I'm going to go because we've had him before. I'll go Christian Naddy just to keep things moving along. Didn't want to be that guy.
Clue number 3: Raith Rovers were one of 3 Scottish clubs in my career.
And I've just remembered it's not going to be Naddy because he didn't finish his career with us, so automatically debunking myself. 3 Scottish clubs.
Calderon was at Airdrie, us,
And Kelly.
and Kelly. Ooh, that works.
John Daly was at Rangers and Dundee United.
He was. He must have
Can't
been
think of
full
another.
cap, so.
He must have been.
He's Irish, eh?
Yeah. I thought briefly,
Yeah, I
I think
think-
Northern Irish. I mean, he would definitely been, but
Ah,
I
yeah.
think he's
Ah,
actually to
he's-
the Republic. Is he not?
I feel like he was an international. It's
He
a good
played-
shout, though, to
he
be
played-
fair.
At Rangers for long enough that you think
He did.
they're truly taking him for, like, he's not getting a game ahead of Robbie Keane, but they'll, like, that's not a deep talent
Or
pool.
does playing at Rangers rule you out for the Republic of Ireland? Which would work in your favour.
Mm-hmm. No, listen, I've not got a better answer.
I'm going to go with a rather unknown one. I don't think he played for actually the 3 Scottish clubs, but Niall Henderson. Northern Irish, sort of centre mid, defensive mid. But I can't think of any 3 other Scottish clubs he would have played for.
Would he have finished his career with us, though? He was quite young with us,
He
was he
didn't
not?
actually, he was the opposite. Aye.
I don't know who that is.
It was, McGlynn's second season, it would have been.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a relatively decent for at least recognising the names of some of these guys. But no, that's a
Wild
totally new one on
period
me.
for free transfers and loanees.
Yeah.
Joe Dunbar and all these guys. Right, give us another clue, Greg.
I played According to Wikipedia, the kind of contractually obligated caveat, I played 15 times for Rovers, scoring 1 goal.
Here, that's not far off a John Daly vibe.
15.
I think
15
you might be.
appearances, 1
I
goal.
think you're on a pretty good track with that because he scored
I think
against.
so too.
What
It's
was
definitely
it?
no Calderon.
Was it not in front of the South Stand?
I vaguely remember him.
Scored
I tell
against
you,
Hamilton, I think. Did he
I
not?
don't
A
think he's-
3-3 draw.
I don't think he scored twice, tell you that much, because he wasn't very good.
No, I vaguely remember him. Was there not a 3-3 draw when John Hughes was in charge?
He wouldn't have been there when it was John
Hughes'
Hughes.
first
It was
game.
Ray McKinnon. He was in under Ray
Yeah, it was Ray
McKinnon.
McKinnon. aye.
Oh, Ray McKinnon, that's right.
Yeah.
Because it was him, Craig Whiting, up top.
Oh, no. Yeah. Actually, I think I'm mixing up games. It was a game we went a goal down and he chucked a load of strikers on. It was McKinnon, I think.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm willing to bet Niall Henderson doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so that rules him in.
I think he does. But he
That's
definitely
actually a
didn't
really
finish
good
his career
point.
at
We
Rovers.
have to have a Wikipedia page.
I'm just keen to move things along, to be honest. I'll just stick with that, even though I know that it's absolutely wrong.
Okay, clue number 5. With my Scottish teams, I won my 2 Scottish teams, I won a Scottish Cup and League Cup respectively.
Well done, Duncan. Has to be.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he won the Scottish Cup with Dundee United, wouldn't he?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Won a League Cup.
Yeah.
Nah,
This
he
season
wouldn't
they
have
beat
won a
us in
League
the
Cup with
semi.
Rangers, though, because he went to Rangers after Dundee United.
Right enough. He was at Rangers for large parts of the
banter
journey,
years.
was he not? Yeah.
You call it the journey. I'm calling it its fucking real name, the banter years. Come on. Oh,
I still feel like he would have
Scottish
must
Cup
have
and
won.
League. So, right, to recap the clues. Finished their career with Rovers, capped internationally at under 21s, 3 Scottish clubs in total, including Rovers, was it? Or 3 other Scottish?
So actually, I'm going to amend this now. And I've just I spoke of the faux pas
Oh,
a bit
you
forthcoming. Yeah.
It's going to be League One, isn't it?
It's
Not League
so,
Cup.
So I won a Scottish Cup. Sorry, aye, and then I won a League One. So yeah, that's what I get for doing it in 4 minutes.
Right.
Right.
Aye.
That does
Like
sound.
myself,
That
yeah.
sounds very Johnny Daly.
And if
Johnny
that didn't,
Daly.
clue number 6, I'm widely acknowledged as the first Irish Catholic to sign for Rangers.
First
Well done,
guess, straight in, hole in one.
Niall Henderson. No.
that was first guess as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, right off the bat. If it wasn't for Gordon
You're never
Adamson,
going to hear the end of that.
I'd say if it wasn't for Gordon Adamson giving him a quake or whatever it was on the pitch side, that just sticks out so vividly in my mind. Because, well, as Greg has kindly told us, he
It
only played
just seemed-
15 games.
It seemed
And,
so odd. So odd.
Yeah,
Like
it wasn't it was almost too nice.
Yeah.
Like you've not really earned this. Like,
Yeah. Definitely.
I think
saw
he
upper
was
players.
Jamie
A massive
Gullen's
disappointment.
manager briefly before he came back to us last season. Yeah, I think he was manager there for a very brief and ill-fated spell. In a very Rovers move, I think they had like 3 permanent managers in the one season, and he was
I remember
the
when we signed him, really
filling in the
thought
sandwich.
I was like, here we go, boys. We've got an actual striker who's from a league above, who's cutting his let's do this.
because he's one of these guys where you're like, it's like his legs might have gone, but it doesn't matter. Like that was never his game. Like he'll bang them in anywhere. Look at the size of him.
A funny season when you look back at it, given like the first half of the season, we were just rotten. We were like murder, but we were in the top 4 and we were still doing all right. And Morton were like 5th and like always kind of like 6 points behind us. And then in the second half, Ray McKinnon just signed about like 12 bodies, including Aidan Connolly, Louis Longridge, Ryan Hardy, and Joel Thomas. And then we just kicked on like so much. It was very, very silly.
By the way, I just had a wee look on Wikipedia there. Antonio Calderon, 1 under-21 cap.
Oh,
Well done. It's a good
It
shout.
actually worked right up
Get-
until the 15
get Niles
goals.
up.
It worked. He's
No,
not got a Wikipedia page, mate.
John Daly's currently assistant
This is
manager
getting in the group
at
chat.
Galway United now, number 2 to Niall Henderson, I think.
Funny if he was, like. Nah, no,
He's, only
he's got a
42
page.
as well. He's not an old guy by any
Niall
means
Henderson's only 37.
no international caps.
at
So.
all.
He's still playing, so you definitely never ended his career with us.
John Daly scored his only goal for us in a 2-1 defeat to Hibs at home.
Oh, there you go.
And it was John McGinn scored after 4 minutes, Jason Cummings scored after 26, and John Daly scored a header, assisted by Jason Thompson with 25 minutes to go.
Because he almost scored.
That's what we never
last
discussed
minute.
tonight, by the way, is which ex-Hibs striker is going to be joining us on loan in January. He's got to be pulling somebody out the bag, isn't he? Talking of Jason
Maybe.
Cummings.
Young lad on loan as well.
I never know.
But yeah, John, I mean, actually, like, so, as you say, 15 games, putting 90 minutes in all but 2 or 3 of those.
Oh, really?
I really
Look,
don't
about
remember
what's
that at all.
like
Like,
Breeze
Was
blocks
there
on
a
Monday
cup
morning.
game with Hamilton in there?
Uh, he came off the bench for 20 minutes in a League Cup game against Hamilton that we won 2-1.
Yeah, we were 1-0 up and they equalised and McKinnon went for it. Hamilton were still in the top flight, I think. We were the league below. And I remember that was the moment I fell in love with Ray McKinnon. I was like, oh my God, we're drawing a game against a team for the league above and he's going for this. Chucked a load of strikers on and we won it. Gone are the days.
The goal scorers, the first 2 goals in that game, are Ian Davidson for the Rovers and Christian Nadi for Hamilton. It's a real smozzed grab bag for that one. And then, as a result of Ray McKinnon chucking all of his strikers on, the winner was scored by Kyle Benedictus. Yeah, there's a lot of names in that. This is a real all or yesterdays, but
St Mirren were going through their banter years as such. They had that spell in the Championship, and John Daly almost scored a goal in that game. But as I say, Grant Anderson got on to get a touch onto it.
Yeah, that's right.
Mass booing, which was the theme of the day at St Mirren Park, which was great fun at that point.
It was glorious.
87th minute winner, which was always nice.
That was Shanklin was in that team as well, wasn't he? At
he
some
scored.
time. I remember that.
dear me.
Did they not go a goal up? Sorry,
No,
I'm just reminiscing.
we went 1-0 up through James Cragen and they equalised.
I just remember old Jim going absolutely tonto at the players and them telling them to F off. I'm pretty sure that was that game at St Mirren.
I really enjoyed that.
Sorry.
Really enjoyed that season,
That's
particularly the second half.
We're happy again, Duncan.
This is it. We're giddy, if anything. I get really distracted looking at John Daly's various appearances. I completely forgot I was hosting a podcast. I was way in a transfer marked rabbit hole.
It's all right. Paul Hanlon will maybe do it next week. We didn't. He'll get involved.
Well, that was good because I won as well, which is a real turn up for the books. Good job, Greg. Right, thank you, everybody, for listening. Kind of alluded to earlier, keep your eyes peeled for the Rovers socials over the next couple of days. It looks like they are really stepping up this men's health campaign, which is obviously a very, very good cause. But as I said before, it's not your kind of half-hearted, just, ping out a tweet and move on. It does look like there's a fair bit of work going at the back of it. A little bit of funding and all that
class
kind of
match
stuff.
day poster coming to a place near you soon. They got delivered to me at work today. They're honestly brilliant.
Excellent. Good stuff. Looking forward to seeing it. Past my bedtime. Right, let's go. Enjoy the game. On Saturday, what will hopefully be the dawning of a new era. I mean, it will be just a case of, you can already tell just from the conversations we are having, the number of people who decided, I can't be arsed with this. Like, I'm not going back to watch that. Who will be there on Saturday. It's just going to be a completely different atmosphere, completely different vibe. We lose a goal 5 minutes in, that'll maybe change, but aye, it's
Paul Hanlon OG.
He's only an interim manager. He's only an interim.
But aye, just getting back to having a big daft laugh, which is all certainly all I ever ask for. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.